Speaking of movies, what kind of movies do you like? From, let's say, from the old days.
From the old days, I like Japanese movies.
No, I don't really, I've seen maybe 5 Japanese movies and I disliked all of them. I've seen maybe 10 Chinese movies, I disliked all of them.
This one's very calm. It's basically.
Yeah, I don't care about calm.
You just
I
don't
like good acting.
Well, maybe it
Like
was good with them.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
couldn't-
I really like film noir movies. Nothing like them. I like Edward G. Robinson. Nobody liked him.
No, I like him.
He's an actor. Is he
Yeah.
different from the other actors? Yeah.
He's good, you know.
I think he's the best.
They were good, you know, but a lot of that stuff was like overacted.
No, it's not overacted.
Some of it was.
No.
It was
No.
compared to what they do today. It was.
Marlon
There's-
Brando
th-
changed that with the.
No, I didn't even like, that's why I didn't like Marlon Brando. I didn't like Marlon Brando. I'm not a great fan of Marlon Brando. I'm not a great fan of who directed The Godfather.
Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his movies.
No good movies were made after the film noir period, as far as Tom's concerned.
What you want to see is Orson Welles and a touch of evil. What film noir movie have you seen?
I saw one about a nun.
He's definitely very particular about what he likes when it comes to art, music, film. You know. But he's got great taste.
I hate rock and roll. No Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Stupid Rolling Stones.
They
You don't
call.
like rock and, you're a big rock and roll fan.
No.
What did I tell you before? I said 20s, 30s, 40s. That is it. Everything after 1949, all popular culture went downhill. So I told this to Scott, and Scott says, you just threw more than half a century out the window. Very narrow.
He's got this totally rigid thing, and again, he's 12 years older than me, but that I've hung out with a lot of people a lot older than me that I had a real rapport with or had more common ground, you know. But deVita just, that's it, you know, this is what it is.
And no good jazz music was made after they made hot jazz cool. You know, when it became cool jazz, Tom stopped listening to it.
So you don't like John Coltrane?
No,
No, I know. Okay, just
no.
confirm.
You know who likes John Coltrane? People who don't like jazz. Say, oh, now that's nice. You want to hear some? Put on that tape over there and you'll hear some real hot jazz.
Mitt Romney has had nothing to do with it, and
Who's this, Tom?
Oh, Father Hines on piano. I used to go listen to this here on 2nd Avenue between St. Mark's and 7th Street when I was 17 years old. Make you tap your feet and dance. I was born in Manhattan, lived there for 60 years of my life.
I think he was born in 1932, and he was raised on the Upper East Side in Harlem. And as far as I know, his dad had a store of some kind, whether it was a candy store or, you know, fruits and vegetables or something like that.
My father was born in Sicily. Come here when he was about 5.
That's your first communion photo? Or?
Yes.
I asked Tom what he did before he became a tattoo artist. And he said in the 50s, he and his brother were pickers. They would go to the Upper East Side on garbage collection days that people would put furniture and other objects out in front of their buildings. They earned about $200 a week apiece and never reported any of it. They never had a social security number.
Tom told me that his first apartment was 25 bucks, and he couldn't get 25 bucks together every month, so he moved into an apartment for 15 bucks, and he couldn't get that together either. He was an artist, he was an artist model is what he did. That was a job he did, I think on a regular basis, he was an artist model. We have one cover that Hardy uncovered somehow. There was a picture of him as, I think, dressed as like a Cuban communist or something like that. Does this look like me?
It does in that photo.
He's a very realistic artist. And like, I can't remember him ever talking about having a job. I think he worked in the scrap metal yard for about 10 minutes. You know, Thom was not a labor guy. He had a job digging ditches one time. He lasted about a couple hours, him and his brother, and then they just left the shovels there and split.
Working scrap metal yard. I think it was in the Bronx. Dropped like a manhole cover on my foot. Not the, you know, just lifting it. And it slipped out of my hand and broke my toe.
And so you went downtown because you were out of work?
No, I got workman's compensation.
Moved down to be with Bohemians. But he was too late. They
I
were
was
gone.
30 years too late. 1959 or 60.
All that was left was the beatniks.
The end of the beatniks.
It was the end of the beatnik era. You know, the beginning of the hippie era was what was starting, you know, the hipsters. There were a lot of social changes going on, you know, and things like that, but things were changing.
Thom told me that him and his brother, I guess they were probably still living in Harlem at that time, and they wanted to go downtown, go to one of the arty places, I guess Thom's brother said, and Thom thought they were going to see a guy named Artie, but Thom's brother wanted to go to the art bars. I think it might have been in the West Village at the time.
Avoid being a square, be an in chick with an out crowd. Be cool without being cold and remain young and never grow old. Dig my servant. My servant's pretty baby.
They were just like meeting a lot of people and doing a lot of stuff and like just like making a good time in that neighborhood at that time.
You know, he's had a really, really interesting life. And he used to hang his paintings on, or his artwork on the fence around Washington Square. And I'm very big on the New York School of Painting and stuff from the mid 20th century. And de Kooning and all those guys are my heroes. And Thom was around that. And he's been doing art forever. You know, he knew those guys at the Cedar Bar.
I can remember him telling stories about FRANZ KLINE having an argument with WILLEM de Kooning about something, you know, or whatever. He used to go there and, you know, spend time among them.
I just rubbed the elbows, just was in the same bar with them. De Kooning's the only one who I spoke with, and he used to say hello to me all the time whenever he saw me. They didn't know I was a tattooer, just an artist. I said I was an artist, then I became an artist.
So it's just like kind of like he was artist, model, odd jobber, picker.
Tattooer. Yeah, exactly. You know, just like me. And how he got into tattooing, I don't know. I think it was like a switch was hit. I think, or maybe. I don't know. I can't tell you that. I can't answer the question. Like, I recently learned that he got his first tattoo when he was 17 years old. I had not known that.
It's Charlie Wagner.
Did you get tattooed by Charlie?
No, I was 17. That's when I had gone into Charlie Wagner for a snake in the skull. He says he wasn't putting them on.
You know, you hear stories about Charlie like kind of hawking, like a barker at a carnival, kind of like hawking, come in, get tattooed, you know? Probably one of the originators of tattooing in New York City, on the Bowery. You know, you hear stories, oh, I paid $1 for this, a bottle of Sneaky Pete. The stories were true.
Wagner was still on the Bowery, and Thom wanted to get a dagger done from him, you know, and Wagner said, I'm not doing daggers this week, I'm doing ships. That's it. That's on the wall, you know, it's a done deal. That's how the tattoo shops were. You know, it's like Henry Ford in the old days. Any color you want, as long as it's black. He had the market, he had the fucking cars, and if you wanted it, that's how you got it.
I went down the block, got it down the block. No, I got it from the Moskowitz,
The old man or the...
the old man. And next time I went down, he says, the kid who put it on. And the kid looked like he was younger than I was, and I was 17. I was one of the Moskowitz. Then met him years later. And he had heard that story. And he was across the room. I figured that was him. He says, I remember you.
Do you find it odd that Thom started tattooing when he was like in his late 30s?
Well, Huck Spaulding told me that Thom bought machines from him years before. years before and just kept them in the drawer. That's what Huck Spaulding told me.
He sent away his Spaulding's address, you know. DeVita always calls Spalding. He said, I wrote away to Spalding, up in Albany. And he gets these machines. He takes the rubber bands off. Well, this must be packing material. I can't get this fucking thing to work. So he called Huck. And then it came out in the phone conversation. And Huck said, well, the rubber bands adjusted right. And he went, well, I thought that was packing. I took them off. You can imagine the needle jumping around. He probably never got close enough to, you know, watch somebody work. And, you know, people didn't like you asking questions anyway. Most tattooers, if you ask questions, they'd throw you out.
If you ask him when he started tattoo, he just asked what year did it become legal?
1961, by Mayor Wagner. Charlie Wagner started it, and Mayor Wagner finished it.
I saved a lot of articles, and this is when tattooing was banned in New York. That's Tony Danessa. It was banned in 1961, allegedly over a health issue. And the tattoo artists that were out of business opened up in other cities.
And there was only 2 places in the whole state of New York to get tattooed. It was Huck Spaulding in Albany and Stanley and Walter in Long Island. Yeah, where it was legal.
There were very few people in New York in the late 60s and 70s that were doing tattoos. There was Tony Polito. There were the guys in New Jersey. Mike Malone may have been tattooing at that time. And then everybody else was on the outskirts because it was illegal in Manhattan.
Thom was tattooing underground out of his apartment.
I think he started off tattooing on 8th Street and then eventually moved to 4th Street.
When I was underground, I worked what was once a kitchen. Took out the stove and the refrigerator, and it's no longer a kitchen.
You just worked off your kitchen table. Everybody started on their kitchen table. You're a bootlegger.
I used to have on one of my cards, not for public display in New York City.
Remember the time you were raided and you put everything in trash bags and
That was another time.
threw them out the window in the ditch yard?
No, I wasn't raided.
Or you thought you were going to be raided?
I thought they had helicopters above,
Yeah, they had helicopters. There was
above
something,
my house.
I can't remember the story.
I said, what, this is for
All went
me?
in trash bags.
You know, I threw them down in the backyard and they went into the garbage can. So I go out the front door and there's police all. I say, my God, what is this? They're after some rapist.
Thom thought they were raiding the tattoo shop.